Gonna set up. Nate, thank you very much.
Have fun.
Thank you, we will.
Nate, we got a spot for you.
Okay, so we're gonna talk today for 1 hour on how to articulate your value as a realtor as this change from the lawsuit is happening. And I have to tell you really honestly, I thought to myself, as they went through when Dave at team meeting went through the changes, I went, oh my gosh, this is no big deal. And I'll tell you what I thought was no big deal. So for me, and I'm guessing for you all, when I am listing a home, there's a section in there that we have to write how much the seller is willing to let me share of my commission with the other agent. And so I had this discussion with them anyways. And there are times that they say, well, couldn't we do it for less? And I go, well, we could. But honestly, this is the money Elise feeds her family with. And so if she's gonna take less, she's probably gonna look at other houses and try to kind of steer them away from showing your house if you're not going to be paying the whole amount. In order for us to make the most amount of money, we need every single buyer from every single agent being brought to your home. Would you agree? And they go, oh, yeah. So I thought, oh, there's no big deal there. The one change is I won't be posting that on the MLS. So the change is we can't say ahead of time. Now, I thought to myself, that's not a big deal because seriously, if I'm showing one of Mark's listings, I call Mark before I go out and show it and ask him 3 questions. Mark, is the house still available?
Yes,
Yeah. Do you have any offers? Are you anticipating any right now?
not at this moment.
Okay. And in addition to price, what's the most important things for your seller in selling this house?
Quickness.
Quickness. Okay. So speed. Okay, great. And now I'll add a 4th question. What is the compensation that your seller is willing to offer on this house?
You're offering 3.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. I'm making that call every time anyways, so I have to add a 4th question. So I'm to myself, this piece of cake, no big deal, don't care, okay? And then the second thing I thought was this. I don't think that our sellers are really going to be bringing it up. Oh, I was wrong. I was wrong. So I took 2 listings last week, so we'll use those 2 as the example. So the first one is a full remodel in the, that needs to be fully remodeled, it's original, in the Avenues. And I said to her, have you heard about the changes coming to real estate? She said, I have. So I instigated that conversation on that. And said, okay, so the reality is, again, we would want to bring every realtor and have them bring every buyer, especially in a house that's going to require appreciate the almost help.
Thanks, Lee.
Didn't want to interrupt, sorry.
Every buyer, especially when we're going to be looking for a very specific kind of buyer. We're going to be looking for somebody who is willing to undertake a 1908 home in the Avenues and fully remodel it. Would you agree? And you went, yeah. I said, okay. So I want to share half my commission. Are you okay with my doing that? She said, yes. Okay. You 2 will have to share and we'll give you a copy when we're done because we're now out of copies.
Oh,
There is a copy. Yeah. Okay, great. You're involved. My second one that I went on is a luxury home. And I've had several people in the office ask me about the fact that, oh, I think my luxury sellers are gonna say, you know, we're not gonna pay that much. Okay, let's see. So I went out to see the house. It's a custom home. So on a custom home, I don't ever go out with comps. On a custom home, I need to see the home, then come back now that I've seen their finishes and everything and run the CMA. So when I was there the first time, this lovely lady said, so what do you think is going to happen with this July thing? Those were her words. Do you think we should wait till July? And I said to her, we're gonna cover that when I come back on Saturday and go through the market analysis and go through our paperwork. I absolutely wanna talk about that. So I was unwilling to talk about that then, but I knew we were gonna talk about it. So when I went out there, on Saturday with my CMA and with all of my listing documents and my presentation and all of that, we went through the numbers and then I said to her, let's go through the paperwork, but before we do, let's go back to that question you had about July. She said, oh, good. She said, I've had like 3 friends tell me I should wait until July because then I won't have to pay a buyer broker. And I said, okay. I said, so Shu Ying, you're in a house that CMA came in at $1,843,000. We listed it at $1,750,000 because it's a round search number. You and I are at a stage in our life where, do you think we're going to call every listing agent of every house we want to see and say, can I get an appointment? We're used to letting somebody else do that. And do you think that you're going to know who you're going to call for a home inspection? Or are you expecting somebody else to take care of that? I honestly think in your price point, the buyers are more in a concierge kind of mindset. They kind of want somebody else to take care of all of that. They've reached a point in their life and their earning income where they're not going to do that running around. So it is my belief that not a one of the buyers walking in is going to walk in without a buyer agent there. And we always want to try to take the offer who has a represented realtor, because they are more likely to get you to the finish line so you can move to Seattle. Because everybody else is like crazy and they don't know what they're doing. Why would we want to work with that person? Now, I'll give you an example. Last week, over at a friend of mine's real estate company, it was Chapman Richards, somebody in their team meeting said, oh, I had sold my house, multiple offers. He said, matter of fact, my seller chose not the best offer, the second best offer. Because the seller said, well, this first offer is an attorney representing himself. That'll be an idiot on the loose. And I'll take the one that's second best, because that's got a realtor and we're gonna get to the finish line. So already I have evidence that the sellers are figuring that out. Okay? So I wanted to share that with you because for me, this whole change, yes, it's gonna create a change. But it's not a lot for me. It's really very similar to exactly what I've been doing because I've always had this conversation. Now, some of you in the room, you haven't been. So for you, it's gonna be hard. Some of you in the room, because I know I have taught here in this office and found this out, and last week I was teaching in Park City, found out exactly the same thing. Some of the agents have been on their buyer broker agreements when it says how much are you gonna get compensated, have been putting 0. They've said, oh no, you'll never have to pay it, I'll have the seller pay it. So they put 0. Well, thing to remember with this new settlement is if Clint, you put 0 down, and I, being a really good realtor, was offering 3%, how much would Clint get at closing if his buyer bought my property? 0. Because your number supersedes my number. That's scary for anybody that's putting 0. We actually have one lady in Park City. She's the #1 agent in Park City. She puts $1. Well, talk about not valuing your stuff. So I think that the biggest change will just have to be in having direct conversations, but also about honoring the value you bring to the table. And I think that we had a time 2 to 5 years ago where our biggest value was we had the key box fob. We could open the door. That was the biggest value. And I think realtors kind of got used to not having to articulate their value. And you've forgotten how valuable you are. I mean, I've had times, Jeff, I'm betting you've had times, where at the end of it, your client said, we didn't pay you enough for what you do. I want your clients feeling that way. And they can't feel that way if you don't feel that way, okay? So one change I'm doing, and this is not my final, this is the one I've given to Russ, it's your top page. And that is the 13 reasons a seller wants a buyer who is represented by a professional real estate agent. I want to make sure you put that in your presentation. You can type it up, make it look pretty, do whatever you want, but there's the, and the reason I want you to do that is because I am fearful that some of you have not been good at being able to articulate why on earth you add value to the equation. It isn't just that you open the door, and it certainly isn't because you write the offer. It is because you get them to the closing line smoothly, easily, without fluff. I got an offer accepted last night or after 9. We were in multiple offers. I was the 3rd best offer. I upped it and I became the 2nd best offer, and they took it. Now, why did they take it?
Because you're better at articulating your value.
I've been communicating with this agent through the whole 4 days of this process. She's gone back to her office, I'm sure, and said, oh, I've got multiple offers on my duplex. And so when they're talking about it and somebody says, oh, you got one from Lee Stern, she's good. You should do her. Okay, so truthfully, being able to articulate and being able to build a great reputation is really important. So let's deviate for just a second and talk about the reputation part, because this is the second one in 60 days that I've gotten, not because I knew the agent, because I don't know the agent at all, but because at her office, people in her office that she trusted said, you should go with that one, it'll close, okay? So it's little things like making that call to Mark and asking that question number 3, in addition to best price, Mark, what else is important for your seller? It's my sending the offer and then my texting or calling and saying, hey, Stephanie, I sent the offer, just wanted to make sure you got it and see if you have any questions. All right, it's the, hey, Stephanie, I know I gave you lots of time, but I thought I'd find out when you're meeting with your seller. We're sitting on pins and needles, can't wait to work with you. It's all those little calls. It's other little calls, like somebody comes into my open house and I'm talking to them and they got a realtor and I ask them who, and they say it's Barb. And I say, great, Barb is fabulous, blah, blah, blah. They leave, I get on the phone and call Barb. Barb, your clients, Mary Beth and John, just walked through my house with stars in their eyes. Will you give them a call? I think they might be interested. They remember that. I'm not trying to steal their clients. I have people all the day. Can I send them in if I'm not there? Absolutely, I want their name. I will welcome them. They will walk in and I say, Barb told me you were coming. So cool to have you here. Are you doing those things? Are you making sure that your relationship with those realtors is solid? Because you'll do multiple deals with them, but more importantly, I want that whole office talking about how good it is to work with me. Because that's gotten me these last two deals, has been that. Okay, so your reputation matters. Your reputation also matters with your buyers and your sellers. So with your buyers, can you articulate what you do? And so the second page, and the pages going forward on that, are 105 more ways you're worth every penny, okay? And again, I would suggest that in your buyer presentation, you put together a sheet that has this, so that they go home with that in their hand after they've signed with you and go, whoa, she's gonna do that? Oh, I didn't think about that, she's gonna do that. I need your buyers to understand your value, because there may be a time that they need to pay for your value. Okay? Now, do I think first-time home buyers are going to be able to pay? I really don't. I'm hoping at some point maybe the lenders will opt to find a way to allow that, but in some cases they can't. On VA, they absolutely can't at this point. But I'm hoping at some point that will change and we'll be able to do that. But I know that my buyers, I mean, my last one that I sold last month, they borrowed not borrowed, mom and dad gifted them $2,000 for their earnest money for a builder. And then they're using the $20,000 from the state of Utah as their down payment closing cost. So they're coming in with not one penny. They don't have one penny. He's a brand new firefighter and she's a brand new teacher. They're both 21 years old and newlyweds, and how else are they gonna do this? So I think our first time home buyers, we're probably not gonna get paid unless we can find a way to negotiate it. And so if I call Mark and he's offering 3%, Mark's a great agent. He's obviously established what his value is and what my value is, because he's willing to do that 3%. His sellers are willing to pay me 3%. But if they weren't, what are my alternatives? Remember, my buyer has no money. She's 21. Got to borrow from mom or get a gift from mom. How am I going to get paid? This is where you talk and I shut up.
No concessions on the seller's part?
Well, if he's not willing, and if he's paying the 3%, then seriously, I have no problem. Okay? And by the way, are you gonna get a reputation in the industry about whether you're offering that or not? You can be damn sure you're going to. Okay? So you're about to have to make your reputation whether you want to or not. That's why I wanted to have this class and let you guys get good at it. But if there wasn't compensation offered, let's say that Mark was a lousy agent, and there was nothing being offered to the buyer, and my buyer really wants that house.
Can you do buy downs for the seller to help them with payments?
Not a payment. How am I gonna, I'm saying, how are you gonna get paid, Mark?
Referral.
Okay,
They-
referral from who to who?
From your clients to someone else, to another client.
Okay, so you wouldn't get paid on that deal? So I'm greedy, Josh, and you're on my team, you should know that about me already. I always say I'm a greedy old broad. I wanna get paid on that deal, and I still want their referral. I ask them for it up at the beginning, I tell them I want their referral. This one in Holiday for $1,750,000 is a referral from a client 8 years ago who's lived for 8 years in California. Okay, I want that referral. So now how am I still gonna get paid?
I would think of seeing if you could negotiate between your buyer. If I can get you this type of contribution from the seller to help buy down your rate or for your closing costs, then there could be a trade-off there for what that would bring to you. Perhaps that gift can then go to you rather than the closing costs. Like, I think there's a bunch of finagling that could happen.
I think finagling will work. Good answer. What else will work? That is absolutely one of the ways. What else?
Sell their car.
Nope.
Add it to the purchase price.
You could maybe add it to the purchase price. Another good answer. How else? got this one, Jeff?
So, one way, when we're going through the consultation, we talk about, or I talk about how I get paid, right? So when I'm highlighting that, and I don't put 0, I put the 3%.
Thank you, I knew you did.
Is that when we're going to a house, and it's gonna be even more important now starting in July, is that if this house is not offering this compensation and you don't have a way to pay, what are our options? Maybe we need to look at another one so that I'm not having to come to you for that money. So that would definitely be a way. We look at another house that way I can get paid and they don't have to pay.
True.
Is
Another
that just
way.
what the NAR suit was about, or is it him giving the buyers a choice of going somewhere else?
Well, they've always had a choice of going somewhere else, but I think we as agents did never necessarily point it out.
Okay.
The thing that's changed, and this is a change, is that I actually can negotiate my buyer side commission in the offer. There's an addendum.
All right.
Yeah. So that's the one that we forget about because we've not been able to do it since 1992, we've not been able to do it. Now we can. So I could write an offer, even without upping the price maybe, and just say, seller is willing to contribute 3% towards buyer's agent commissions.
I see, I was thinking that you're saying that the sellers were like unwilling to contribute at all, so how were we?
No, no,
I see.
but your answer is also right, because there are times that, maybe they've said they will do a buy down, maybe that's in the comments, I've noticed that quite a bit. But even if they didn't, and I negotiated my contract in there, I would probably go in, and I don't get to go to the seller personally and present anymore, used to. But in my cover letter to the agent that I attach with the offer, not as a separate thing, but as part of it, I'm gonna say, in lieu of any concessions for buy downs, closing costs, et cetera, on the seller, on the buyer's behalf, the buyer is asking for a 3% compensation to their agent, so that they have the funds to buy your house and still cover their own closing costs. So that can now be put in there. Hasn't been done since 1992, okay? So it could be a combination, but sometimes it'll be 0 and you've got to come in even if they weren't offering compensation. And again, certainly the other way is if they're not, they may reach a compromise and go, all right, we'll pay 3%, but the price has got to go up 1.5% for us to do that. Okay, so it's really, we're going to be negotiating more, which is probably another class we should have somebody teach. So those are the ways that we're going to get paid, and that is a change because, we do have to be able to negotiate that. Well, if we're negotiating that and we don't get to have any more face-to-face value. So I've now got to count on you. Tell me again your name.
Erica.
Thank you, Erica. So I've now got to count on Erica. If I'm representing the buyer and I'm sending over this I'm sending over this offer to her, I've got to count on her to be able to articulate my value. I work with a lot of realtors and a lot of them are good and a lot of them can't articulate anything. I mean, that's my scariest part. Why I want you guys to not be in that group. I want you to be in the wow, I can articulate it well group. So how might we set ourselves up to succeed more often when I'm bringing an offer to Erica, we'll say for just this minute, Erica, that you're just the average agent and not articulating it well to your sellers. And by the way, if I look on the MLS right now, and I had buyers out last night, I had buyers out the night before. So I'm looking at the MLS to find houses. I am amazed. I would say if I'm lucky, half of them are paying the 3%, which means that I got at least half of them who are only average at best. So now let's pretend I'm writing an offer and Erica, in our pretend scenario, is average. Yet I'm now counting on her ability to negotiate my commission, the money I feed my family with and golf on and travel with and all that other fun stuff that I like to do with. How safe do you feel now? Not real safe. I don't feel real safe. And I've always said in all my years, I know that the other side, the agent on the other side, no matter what side I'm on, you expect they're going to do certain jobs, but I always go into a transaction planning to have to do all the jobs. And then I get pleasantly surprised when I find that, oh, Erica's on top of it, she does all of it, she's fabulous, keeps me updated, it just went smooth as silk. But I'm gonna go in not necessarily anticipating that. I think we're gonna have to write offers, kind of anticipating that they're not good at articulating their own value, much less yours. So how might we help solve that problem? This is where
Just
you
like
drop.
you said, presenting that cover letter with the offer, making it as clear and concise so that they can simply forward to the sellers. You've said in classes before that you would make sure that your lender would call them
Yeah.
rather than waiting for the seller's
Yeah.
agent to call the lender.
Which is
And
part
you
of why I got both those multiple offers, by the way, is my lender.
Yeah, but anything that you can do to make that easy on the listing agent as well as for the seller, you're more likely to.
I think that's step one, and that's gonna have to be mandatory, and like I said, don't let it be a separate attachment. Make it be part of your MLS, because then they will end up probably forwarding the whole thing. So now they know that that they would need to pay us, our side, because we've asked for it, and we've done a cover letter. But in my cover letter, what am I gonna say that is compelling enough for a seller to go, ooh, yeah, probably just need to do that. So I don't know what we've talked about thus far is enough. And I guess what I'm thinking is, as I look at the 13 reasons why, maybe it's something as simple as making that part of the template I always send with my cover letter. So that they know 13 reasons why. Maybe it's sending part of these, maybe it's sending the headlines. I've consulted with my buyers. I look at consulting section. Tamara Reaper always says, people pay me my full commission because I'm very good at consulting my clients, okay? And I'm willing to take the risk, meaning she's willing to front the money, invest the time, whatever. So what if we said, we consult with them. We know their needs, we've educated. These are not buyers running wild and not knowing what the heck's going on. We prepare the buyer as noted by, they're already pre-approved, we can close in 3 weeks. If you want longer than that, we can do it, but know that we are already in a position that all we need is the inspection, the appraisal, and we can close. Okay? Negotiating, I think, is another one. What if you came up with, and facilitating the close, the inspection, matter of fact, the one I put on last night after 9 o'clock, this morning already have the inspection set up. It's a duplex, it's got tenants to work around. I've already called Stephanie, the agent, back and said, Stephanie, just want to give you a heads up, you're gonna get a call or an email from pillar to post. The only time we have before our deadline, which is at 5 p.m. on Monday for our due diligence, is Friday afternoon. Can you make a miracle happen and work with the tenants to get us in both those properties? And she said, absolutely. I mean, she is now on my team because we've had so much communication over this 5-day period of time with multiple offers. Okay? I think we're gonna have to put together, at least I'm going to have to put together, hopefully all of you will decide to do the same thing. But I'm worried about the average agents and their ability to let people know how good I am at my job. I think they won't do that. And I don't think that's an ego thing. I think that's just they're not good at articulating it. So I think I'm going to put together probably a template when I write an offer representing a buyer, so that I can articulate the value I bring as part of the cover letter. Because the cover letter is in my mind, and if somebody can think of another way, please tell me. The cover letter in my mind is my only opportunity to kind of get in front of Erica sellers. Because I mean, I probably personally present more offers than most people because of my clients' age. Okay, they're older, they're not as tech savvy, so a face-to-face works for them. For Shuling, I went and presented it in person, the listing, because she hasn't ever sold a house before. So I think with first-time home buyers, you probably do it in person. Although my youngsters, they're happier if I just talk to them on the phone and just send them stuff to DocuSign. But I want my people to be powerful and understand, so I do try to dissuade them. But I think for most people, there is a really good chance that Erica's not going to go to the kitchen table at her seller's house. She's probably gonna talk to them on the phone and send them over the offer. So that's hard for us to say, what is our value and get paid if nobody's getting a face-to-face. So in my mind, about the only way is going to be very compelling cover letter. It kind of articulates in some bullet points why they want a professional realtor on the other side of the transaction so they can get across the finish line. That makes sense? So I think we've got to work on those, and I haven't yet. I put this together, but I haven't yet thought about how am I going to do that, because I really think I am. And by the way, I think even, well, we use the lady in Park City, the #1 agent who, with 0. You know,
I was up there yesterday, I can't believe she did that.
so she's not the only one, and we have some in our office who've done the same thing. So obviously, she's not good at articulating her values. So where I used Erica and asked her to please, for this moment, be an average person, now let's assume that Erica's a top producer. And I'm writing an offer on one of hers. And I called her up. And I said, what's the compensation, is my question number 4. And she said, we're not offering any. Probably that answer is my signal that she may be really good at listing houses, but she's not really good at articulating anyone's value. That may be how you know, because if I call Mark and he says that we're offering 3%, I go, he's on, he's good, he knows what he's doing. He's already had the conversation about why they would want somebody like me on the other side. But if they're offering 0, I'm pretty sure they either had the conversation and it went badly because they couldn't articulate it, or they didn't bother having the conversation. Well, let's not offer anything, and maybe we won't have to pay anything. Well, let's not offer anything, let's just have the buyers pay their own. That may have been how good that conversation went. Because boy, it sounded good to list with Eric at 3 versus listing with Mark at 6. Seemed like 3% more in my seller's pocket, didn't it? But will it be? Probably not. So I think that probably, as I'm thinking and talking this through, when I call Kelton and ask him what his compensation, if there's compensation offered to the buyer's agent and what that compensation is, that may very well be my signal for what kind of cover letter I need to send. But I think it's gonna have to happen so often that we just need to have a template. So we can just cut and paste a little about them and just, again, here are the reasons why you would want this buyer represented by me. And list those things. And my bottom line that I always say is, because I specialize in getting across the finish line. Okay? So come up with your own words, you can't use mine, but you know what I mean, come up with a way to let people
Come
know.
on, I was gonna ask, where's your cover letter?
Well, honestly, I hadn't thought about the cover letter till we started doing this role play, and it's like, holy cow, if they're offering 0, I know they either failed at the conversation or failed to have the conversation. And since this is how I feed my family, pay for golf and my jet season tickets, etc., I gotta figure out how I'm gonna be good at this. Okay? All right. So I don't think we have to go through each and every one of these things. That's why I printed them out for you. I think you all can decide which ones you really want to make sure you focus on. And by the way, I may focus differently on somebody based on a conversation I have with them, or finding out that they offered 0, which probably means they didn't at all have the conversation, versus somebody who maybe offered 2 or 1. At least they had the conversation. Okay, so I don't have one yet. Maybe the next time I teach this class, I'll have a template for you by that time. But this needs to go in. So this 13 reasons why, I believe this needs to be in every listing agent's presentation, because what it does is it forces you to have the conversation. And I think there'll be lots of times that people will not have the conversation. I think that's what's happening now. So I think this kind of forces you in your presentation to say, let's talk about when we get an offer. Not offers, all offers are created equal. You can tell the story about the agent who just turned down the higher offer because he was representing himself, versus choosing the second best offer because they had a realtor. Remember, every seller's goal is to get it sold.
I think there's a bit of too much, maybe it's the fear of driving everybody talking about it. There's too much emphasis on the money. Yes, it's a concern for the sellers and the buyers, but what they really want is to get a transaction done. They want to get it done right. What do we always say? In the least amount of time with the least amount of hassle. So basically, I
And
think
the
there's
most amount of money.
money. That's
So it is
correct.
part
So
of
it's
it.
part of it. But at the same time, by what we're doing when we articulate our value is we're saying there's more to the transaction than the money. There are the things that need to be done to make this a successful transaction, to get you in the home you want, or to get your home sold for as much as you can.
If you're only willing, that's a really great point, Barb. If you're only willing to pay me, then here's my challenge. I have several buyers I'm working with. And right now, not a one of them fits your house. I believe my job is to go out to the 13,000 other agents and say, you look what I've got here. Who's got a buyer that matches this? And I want all of those 13,000 looking eyes on your house and going, who do I have? And I want all of them who have somebody who fits to bring an offer. Because if they all bring an offer, then like I had last night, multiple offers. Who benefits the most from a multiple offer?
So,
You do, the seller. You do. So if you tell that story, then they begin to understand why the 13,000 other people not in this room have a value. Okay? And that one you can tell the story just like that. Because it resonates. I tell that story every time. It resonates. Okay? All right. What other things are you worried about on articulating your value? Yeah,
I wouldn't necessarily say I'm articulating it, a couple things to go back to where I see as a challenge, you know, like your cover letter, to go back to like, there was a time the love letters would work, can't do that, right?
Right.
What are the chances that the agents are actually going to share that letter with their seller, for one? But then I'm curious on your thoughts on, we're already seeing it now over the past few years, right, where if the commission is less than 3%, trying to negotiate it up is a challenge, right? Do you see that not getting worse?
so I think it's gonna become the norm. Where I think negotiating it up hasn't been the norm, I think it's now going to become the norm. That's what I think is gonna happen here,
Mhm.
is it's gonna get negotiated a whole lot. And how the cover letter is going to get through, you're right, we can't do love letters anymore. And that was a equality problem, because if you were a family of 4 that were white versus a family of 4 that were purple, that was really, if you were a traditional couple versus a non-traditional couple, it was an equal housing problem. I don't think this is the same as that. I do think that if you make it a separate attachment, it will often not get done. If you make it as part of the offer, so it's not separated, I think it will get done. And here's what I think. I think that there are so many agents who are fearful of having the honest conversation about how we're gonna bring buyers in and what it's gonna cost and who's gonna get paid, et cetera, that they're fearful of that. So the idea that you have made it part of your offer and hit on why they need that realtor took it right off their back. They didn't have to do it. And they're not opposed to that seller paying it. They just weren't good at articulating it. I think it'll be more successful than you think.
I hope so.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I-
Done.
What's the difference between your love letter and this cover letter?
Well, the love letter was, if I'm writing a letter on one of Jeff's listing, oh, this is a great family. He's been a pilot for 20 years for Delta. They've got a little daughter, Junie. Mom lives out of state, so that basement downstairs would be perfect. They're happy, hoping to have more children, blah, 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 blah. You know, and they're like, oh, it's a good family. Now, that only works if Jeff, the seller, cared whether it was a good family or not. But it's that kind of thing where you've given them a picture of what this group might look like. I've had them where they sent me pictures. Okay, you've probably been around long enough that they sent pictures. And I had one client, one agent called me one time. She's dead now. I didn't kill her. And up in Ogden, and I had like 7 or 8 offers. And hers was like the second from the bottom. It was a bad offer. But she sent a picture, and the picture was of a African-American family. And she said, well, they didn't take it because they're Black. And I went, yeah, that wasn't it. I think it was an Asian family who bought it, but they wrote the best offer. You were number 7 out of 8. You know, it isn't always, you know, about color. It's not always about religion. It's not always about sexual orientation. It's just not. Okay, but we used to do pictures. Pictures became a no-no, and but it's a fair housing rule.
Yeah.
That really is why they dissuade you from doing it. This is not that. This has nothing to do with that. So this is hey, got a great offer here. Please note, Erica, that we've got $100,000 in earnest money. It'll go hard by next Tuesday at 5 o'clock, or next Monday at 5 o'clock. We're able to perform before the end of the month. My clients, the lender will be calling you. He'd already called. My lender will be calling you just to reaffirm and answer any questions you have. These are outstanding people. Let me share with you the reasons why we are asking your buyer to pay our compensation. Your seller, the buyer's compensation. And then I'm gonna list those things. But I've already proven that I'm already doing the job, haven't in the first paragraph.
Mhm.
Now I'm just reiterating what is still to come. I've got an inspection to get through, I've got an appraisal to get through, I've got a roof that I think is gonna need to be done, but we're not gonna ask them to do it. I mean, I've got all these things. I'm proving my value. I don't think they're not gonna show it, because I think that they have a harder time articulating it than I just did. It's always easier when you have property and you get a showing, you want those agents to give you comments. Because you've already said to them, well, you know, you probably should change that carpet, the pink carpet. Yeah, and they haven't. But when they hear it over and over from the other guys, they're like, well, maybe we should put in some different carpet. And I go, what a good idea. I mean, we've talked about it, but Sarah, sometimes it needs other people talking about it. So I think it takes the weight off their shoulder and allows it to go on my shoulder and prove positive that what she tried to tell them is true. Right.
Question for you. I've noticed on the MLS listings, a lot of them are not putting anything in the VAC now. Or, so how do you expect in future that this is gonna be handled when you put an offer in on a property, you don't know what the commission's gonna be on the other side? How do you expect that process to be moving forward?
So exactly like I role played it earlier with Mark. I call Mark up because his house fits my buyer's parameters. Mark, is it still available? Mark, do you have any offers or expecting any right now? Okay, so in addition to price, what else is important to your seller in an offer?
Needs to close quickly.
Okay, great. End of month quickly or mid-May, you tell me?
At the end of, well, 2 months.
2 months, okay, so we'll do that. And what compensation is your seller offering to the buyer side? 3. Thank you so much. It's that question number 4.
Or 1.
It's question number 4. Doesn't matter whether it's 1 or 4, question number 4. Doesn't change my number. Okay, so that's what's going to happen. In the commercial world, that is always what has happened. It has never been listed. Okay. By the way, one thing I did say to Shu Ying, when we talked about that July thing that was going to happen, as she referred to it, and that was that we were really lucky. This wasn't going to create much change for us. There are 39 states out there that have never had buyer agency. We've had buyer agency since 1992. We've been doing this right all those years. So our changes are very minor. I do feel bad for people in many other states that this is like just blowing up their worlds. But I don't believe it's gonna blow up Utah. And I did say that to her. Okay, so remember that conversation. We're taking this, listen to it a few times on some of these scripts so that you can really go back and articulate word for word, make it a script. Make some of these things we talked about a script. All right, so let me ask a question to you all. First, does this help you understand what's going to be happening and how you might talk about it to both your buyers or your sellers?
Oh, absolutely, thank you, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
You know, there's 39 other states don't have these terms.
Yeah, well, but other people like me, but I appreciate that. I do think that it's going to be something that the listing agents need to be strong about. I think if we falter, it could really impact everybody, not just themselves, but everybody. So I think it's important that we value what we've done and what we do for our clients. I mean, yeah, go ahead.
How would you handle a conversation with a seller that you articulated the reason why you wanna offer a commission, but they just don't wanna give it a try and see without?
So you understand, Erica, that you could choose to do that. And then you basically got me, and we hope that somebody else will show up, but it's not gonna be another agent unless they're willing to negotiate it. So don't be surprised if we get another agent in, if they don't come and ask you for it. And then we're gonna just delay answering this question. And just when we get an offer, we're gonna be back at the same conversation again. Here's the thing that worries me the most, though. Got 13,000 agents out there, it's what they do for a living. Do we wanna turn some of them away? Some of those people who have buyers who can't pay? Because I know that if we ended up in a situation with multiple offers, my multiple offers are often way more than the 3% we're talking about. So we may get lucky. But if we don't, and you get one offer, they're probably gonna ask for it anyway, so we'll have the conversation again. Or we offer it and we get all 13,000, talking to all of their buyers, and we try to get multiple offers and get you more money. Because ultimately, I think what you're saying is that you wanna put the most amount of money in your pocket.
That's right.
Okay. Which way would you like to do it then?
The offer is-
I think that's very smart of you. That's exactly what I said. And I let them reach that decision and I reaffirm it with a, that's very smart of you. Because it really is, you know, people will say, and people have said to me, well, let's just offer them two, before this, the July thing, before the July thing, as my guy calls it. You know, where they were offering, they say, well, couldn't we just pay them 2%? Well, you could. But let me tell you the truth. Agents are gonna be setting up showings to show houses. They look down here and that was paying 3 and that was paying 3. Ooh, look, there's one that pays 2. And well, that was paying 3. So maybe you don't even get in their showing schedule because you're not willing to pay. Or maybe they put you in the schedule because the buyer said, oh, I really want to see that house. You look in that houses too. So even though nobody will ever admit to the fact that they're going to not show a house because of commission, here's what happens. They walk in and go, you know, I think some of these baseboards need to be replaced.
Old.
Yeah, that water.
Yeah.
Maybe. I think that happens.
Yep.
So are they really trying to sell the house or they're trying to get you out of that house? You know, it's interesting to me. Somebody else said, well, because it was an expensive house, they didn't think they'd have to pay more. Or have to, you know, if you're a $2 million house, isn't 40,000 enough for commission? And you think about your house, and it's normally your biggest asset, certainly one of your biggest assets. If I was selling my artwork at Sotheby's, are they gonna give me a discount because it's really good artwork? It's Monet's and Van Gogh's and Picasso's. If I go to an attorney and I'm trying to settle a suit, and it's my business, and my business is a multi-million-dollar business, are they going to take less because, you know, it's a multi-million-dollar business? Assets are typically done on a percentage. And that is the way asset handling is done in the United States. So if you run into somebody who's got a very expensive house, you may run into that one, so think about that one. By the way, I'm also the one taking the risk. I'm the one that's paying all the money up front, marketing it all, knowing that maybe I'll never get paid if it doesn't sell. So you're paying me to take the risk and to consult you on the realities of the market. And so that's what I'm trying to do when I say, do you want to cut off your nose to spite your face? Do you want to step over nickels to pick up, or step over dollars to pick up nickels? I'm okay with whatever decision you make, Erica, but I want you to understand before you make them what you're saying no to. Is that fair?
That's great.
Okay. All right, so my next question is, have you learned anything in here that you're gonna change and implement? Just shout out what you're gonna do maybe differently than you've been doing it? What's resonated where you go, oh, gotta do that?
I'm gonna take this and I'm gonna go home and I'm gonna script it and I'm gonna practice and I'm gonna record it and I'm gonna role play it.
Make it your language.
So that, yeah, I have a chance to get in front of somebody, I have something to say.
Good idea, good idea. Anybody else?
Couple things. So I love the idea of the cover letter, so taking the time to do that and not have it separate. So taking a little extra time to where it's one document where it, like you said, it helps force that situation, it's gonna get in front of them. And then, you know, as I've been going through my listing presentation, I love that, I think that's super smart. To put those 13 items, why, you know, they need to have a buyer's representation. So it just helps force that conversation and they can truly understand why. So those are two things for sure.
How many of you at the table have done a deal where you had to, you were the only realtor? You were maybe representing the other side in a limited agency, or maybe they were unrepresented buyer. Okay. How was it?
Frustrating.
It is, isn't it? I had this true experience, probably about 7, 8 years ago. I got an offer on one of my listings in Holiday, a luxury home, and he's an attorney, he's gonna represent himself. He brings the offer into the old office, drops it off, doesn't have to see me, just drops it off. And I called him up and I said, hey, who's, you representing yourself? Who's representing you? And he said, no, I'm an attorney, I'm representing myself. I said, okay, you sure you wanna do that? And he said, yeah. And I said, okay, good. I need proof of funds. Well, you don't need that. And I went, no, if you had a realtor, he'd tell you I need it. Well, you can just go to the website of the Utah Bar Association. I'm the past president. I said, congratulations. I'm not going to your website. I need proof of funds. Well, you can't ask me. I said, if you had a realtor, they would tell you, you always have to provide proof of funds. So he wasn't liking me much at all of that. But I come from a family of attorneys and they're lovely people, but they don't get to do stuff others don't get to do either. So the next thing I know, I got a call from Jim Brinkhurst, who's been a realtor, UAR president, and all that. Calls up, he says, Lee, I got a client. I said, let me guess, he's an attorney trying to go around you. And he went, exactly. I said, you're gonna represent him? He said, yeah. He said, by the way, thanks for making him get a realtor. I was his realtor. He was trying to sneak around him. And he of course brought me with proof of funds, a new offer and all of that. But even somebody who could represent themselves supposedly was doing a poor job, by the way. Just so you know, the reason he didn't want to give me proof of funds, his mother-in-law was giving him the funds. And, egotistical attorney is what it was. So, yeah. Okay, what other things might you have to change or implement? What things are you going to implement? Anything else?
Strengthening your relationships again with the listing agent. You really do need to go above and beyond.
Yes. I had one in February, and multiple offers again. She would not talk. All she would do is text. I mean, I've tried everything. So here I am with these long ass texts about this and about that and about, I mean, literally long. And when we came time, we again were the second best offer on that one. She called me up. And no, she didn't call me. She did not call me. She texted me and said, you're the second best offer, but the agents in my office said you are wonderful to work with. Do you think your clients would go 5,000 more? And I texted back and I said, I'm betting they will give me 5 minutes. So even on, but I mean, the text I did was just like the phone conversation. So it was, I'm a bad, slow texter. So I mean, that's just painful for me. But again, just like the one last night, this is somebody from the group. I've done several deals and know a lot of the agents at the group because they're all old like me. They've been doing it a long time. So our reputations are old reputations. I know that's why. she took us even though we were not the best. So, yes, and remember the trick about when they come into an open house and they tell you, I'm represented by Jeff. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I know Jeff, that's great. Call Jeff afterwards, Jeff, so-and-so just came home. I don't think it's the right house for them, but I wanted to let you know they're out wandering around on their own today. Even if I'm just doing that, Jeff will never forget that I'm that person. Okay? Your reputation gets you deals. So go out of your way to make sure you're just like the best person in the world to work with. They want to work with you. Okay? And you can do that even when you're new. Because I mean, I was new. Back in 1979, 80, I was brand new here in Salt Lake and nobody knew me. And I started doing these things. And so it wasn't very long at all before they started knowing me. And I'm not one of those people, and I get these people. I'll have agents who'll call me and go, I've been doing this for 40 years. And I go, oh, that's a long time, me too. That just makes us old. That's exactly what I say. Because just because they've had a license for that long doesn't necessarily mean we're knowing what we're doing. So don't get blown away by their time. If need be, go on the MLS and look and see how many have they done in a year, just so you kind of know what their experience is. But I do think it's the biggest burden is gonna fall on the listing agents on this change to set the right tone to get it be successful. I also think that when I call Mark, if he tells me it's a 0 or he tells me it's a 1, I am probably going to be a prejudiced person. I am probably going to say to myself, Mark is either somebody who doesn't do a lot of deals and doesn't know how, and does not know how to articulate his value or mine. That's probably the judgment I'm going to have going on in my head. And I'm going to take extra precaution to help him and me successfully get a deal together where we both come away being paid. And I'm gonna ask my listing agents and my buyer agents to kind of take on that role to make sure we do it well. Our sellers and clients, buyers will benefit from this. Okay?
Question. I've really struggled recently with these, with the prices have gone up so much and the commissions have been not just straight 3%. And I fought for my 3% after they've said, we're gonna offer 2.5. And I really struggle with this. How can I better address that after it's been decided at the listing table that they're gonna offer 2.5 or 2%?
By all the things we just talked about here, including doing the addendum to raise it to 3 within your offer, okay? And we're past our time. One last question. I thank you all for spending the hour and 5 minutes here. Is this a class, not necessarily led by me, but is this a class that we should keep having in our office?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, that's kind of my thought, because even when we were role playing, honestly, Erica, that made me go, okay, I need to do that template in my letter. And as we were talking about it, I realized if Mark can't articulate his value, then I need to help figure this out, okay? So I think it's an evolving thing, but I'm already seeing people with not posting there, so it's already beginning to occur. So I thought we need to know how we should go in and handle this. So come in and see me as you write one, a template, happy to proof with you, maybe edit with you, see what needs to be done. Erica, last question.
The other thing that I think would be great if we can incorporate, which is probably for the leadership committee education, but just like you said, negotiating, we don't get a lot of practice negotiating. And so I think the more that we can do some of that here in the office with one another, that would be super helpful.
Okay. My favorite negotiator in the office is Tamara Reaper. She's really very, very good at it. Let me see if she can come in and teach one. If she comes in and teaches one, all of you should come, because she's really very, very good at it. I think that's a good idea.
Yeah.
I think it is going to be more negotiating than we have had.
Yeah.
And we better get good at it, so good. Good
Thank
idea.
you so much.
Thank you all very much.
Who's recording this?
I'll go tell Makai and she'll turn it off, but she recorded it.
Oh, great. Can we get a list of this and email it?
Yeah, I think you tell Makai.
Elise, yes.
Story?
Yes, I did. So I grew up in Arizona, but I've been out here for
New agent or?
New agent, yeah. Yeah, I just passed my test last month. Yeah, thank you. No, I'm part-time, yeah, for now. I'm in property management. And so I manage a building downtown. And so I really like something that coordinates. But this is always something that I wanted to do long-term.
Right.
And so I was just kind of like, might as well just get started and get my foot in the door and, I work for a smaller company, so I just kind of like,
Yes,
you know,
for sure, so.
we need to go use this for an hour, go do this for an hour, so have a good relationship with them, that like, it is possible. So it's
Yes,
nice. And,
I know time is in, right? I had a conversation with someone. Similar situation, but
Okay.
where in property management,